Happy Feast of St. Martin. So first I have many things I want to say and talk about this evening, so I will try to be brief, although I have many bullet points that I want to cover, so start throwing tomatoes at some point if need be. First, I always like to point out in our camera ministry up there, just get yourselves ready because I'm going to kind of be all over the place here a little bit. So I was going to point out when I come on November 11th when I celebrate Mass here at St. Martin's, we have a vestment that has St. Martin on it. So I don't know if you can see, but embroidered here is St. Martin, and he's riding his horse, and he has a sword, and then there's a person here who is like a beggar right there. And it's on there, and then it's also on my stole right there as well. So I'm totally decked out today for St. Martin, which is also just this great opportunity because I get questions a lot about what I wear at Mass. This is just this is a perfect opportunity just to quickly talk about this. So if you notice, my vestment today is like a turtleneck. I don't know if you notice this, but I have this huge collar on my vestment. I can actually flip it up if I want to, look like Dracula right now. Not that Dracula would ever wear this, but you know what I'm saying. So I think it's just always important. People sometimes get really hung up on clerical fashion. People will be like, Father, why do you wear those tiny little vestments, or why do you wear these? So it doesn't matter. A chasuble can come in many different styles and forms and made out of different types of material and embroidery or not embroidery or all these, and it doesn't matter. And I always like to make the analogy to any other type of fashion. So if we ask, please go home and get out of your closet all of your jackets or all of your coats, and we would have a whole bunch of different types of coats. You would have double-breasted and single-breasted and 3 buttons and 5 buttons, and you would have ones that would have belts and ones that and made out of all different types of material. And so the same is true with liturgical fashion. So everything is it changes in times and in seasons and by the artist who makes them and the era that they're made in. The question is whether they're beautiful and whether they honor God. And so the liturgical style of them or the preference of them is really not as big of a deal, and there's not really an agenda that's attached to different ones. So anyways, this is always I always find it a great honor to wear this vestment. It was intentionally bought, of course, to be worn on the feast day of St. Martin of Tours, which we celebrate here today. So I always sort of tell the story of St. Martin, for those of you who don't know the story of St. Martin, particularly because here at All Saints Parish and St. Martin campus, when you leave Mass today, you're all going to be handed cookies by Our Lady Sodality that are in the shape of geese. And if you don't know the story, then it makes no sense. So St. Martin is, I was doing more research on St. Martin today because I had time. So we had the beautiful funeral for Jessica Wiedemann this morning, and then I just had some opportunity this morning to I took a nap this afternoon and prayed, and then I was I just want to research and do some more research on St. Martin, so I did. So St. Martin of Tours is really a very, very interesting saint. He is the first saint in the Roman Catholic Church to be declared a saint who did not die a martyr. Just think about that. This is the first saint in the Roman Catholic Church to be declared a saint who did not die a martyr. Now, of course, this is, remove the Blessed Virgin Mary, who's a saint, and although we could actually say because of her pierced heart that she did actually die a martyr's death, because we proclaim John the Evangelist to have died a martyr's death as well, because he was boiled in oil but survived it. But nonetheless, St. Martin of Tours, he's from the early 300s. We don't know his exact birth date. But we know that he was born into a military family. His father was in the military, and the expectation was that he would follow his father in a military career. Martin converted to Christianity on his own against his father's and mother's wishes. He is in pursuit of a military career, so he's following the ranks. makes the decision to become, because of Christianity, to become a conscientious objector. And in the midst of this, in this pursuit of God, his heart just is genuinely stretched by God. This then leads to the oil painting over on the far left here. Now, when St. Martin's was originally built in 1850, for its first 65 years, this oil painting was directly behind the tabernacle. And the oil painting depicts the traditional story of St. Martin, which is depicted here in embroidery on my chasuble on my stole. St. Martin is dressed as a military, because he's a soldier here at this point in his life. As he is leaving the city, there is a beggar there. He's normally depicted as being naked and cold. He calls out to Martin for help. Martin has no money on him. He takes his military cloak off, which is actually property of Rome. He cuts it in half and gives the cloak to the poor person, the naked person. What was our gospel passage today? Matthew 25. What does Matthew 25 say? I was naked and you gave me clothing. And then what does Jesus reveal? Whatever you did to the least of my brothers, you did it to me. So you'll see in the very top of the painting, it's really this painting, I love this painting, I love it, I love it, I love it. So you have Martin down below, right? And he has cut his cloak and he's giving it to the poor person. Martin that night has a dream, and in that dream, remember, dreams are not jokes. Dreams are actually really important. St. Joseph had some dreams, didn't he? Those were pretty important dreams, right? Otherwise, Mary would have raised Jesus by herself. So Martin has a dream, and in that dream, Martin sees Jesus wearing the military cloak. And what does Martin realize? What I did to that poor person, I did to God. That Christ was alive and dwelling in that individual. In this painting particularly, you'll also see two angels on the left and the right of Martin. And what are those angels holding? The symbols or the signs of the episcopal office. So you'll see them holding the crozier, which then that leads us down to the statue. So this is St. Martin here. After St. Martin has this vision, St. Martin gives his life to God completely and dedicates his life as a priest. As a priest, he gathers other men around him and forms some of the earliest monasteries, which would eventually become Benedictine monasteries. But he gathers, people follow this holy man who wants to serve the poor and preach the gospel and bring people to faith. So he establishes some of the earliest monasteries in the world, because Christianity has just become legal. You can actually now have a formal place of worship and prayer. So Martin is one of the earliest to establish that. And his holiness becomes so well known that the local people need a bishop. And the local people say, well, we want Martin to be a bishop because he's really holy. So they go to try to make Martin a bishop, and Martin runs away from them. He doesn't want to be a bishop, like any sane person. You don't want to be a bishop. There's always, we actually say this in seminary all the time. People who want to be bishops should never be bishops. And the problem is that oftentimes those who get made bishops wanted to be bishops. I think we're seeing that right now if you're following what's happening in the church. It's a bunch of men who are caught up in themselves, their pleasures, the pursuit of the world, the pursuit of money, the pursuit of fame, the pursuit of prestige, and you end up with a really sick group of men. So Martin doesn't want to be a bishop, so that's the perfect person to be a bishop. So the legend says that St. Martin went and hid inside of a barn to hide from the crowd who was trying to make him a bishop, and there were a bunch of geese inside the barn, and the geese started squawking, and they found Martin hiding from them in the barn, and then they made him a bishop. And so you see the little goose there at the feet of Bishop Martin, who's gloriously dressed in his robes, his episcopal robes, which you see actually the angels that are holding up in the painting as well. So it all kind of comes full circle there. So St. Martin as a bishop then realizes, okay, like I'm now called to be the shepherd of my people. So Martin, who was Martin the charitable, Martin the compassionate, now has to become Martin the father and the shepherd. What is the biggest issue in his area? Paganism. Particularly people who worshipped trees, the sun, and the moon. They were idolaters. What's the first commandment? You shall have no other gods besides me. You shall not commit adultery. So Martin became a man of tremendous fervor and zeal towards stamping out idolatry in his local area. In fact, there's some great reflections about how Martin's earliest raisings as by his father in a military career, in a military pursuit to fight the enemies of Rome, that Martin would end the rest of his life not fighting the enemies of Rome, but truly fighting the enemies of God and stamping out with military fervor against the evils and the sins and the idolatry that they were trapped in. Ephesians chapter 6, St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians chapter 6, which we named our men's conference after, is putting on the armor of God. We have with us today one of our favorite servers. All of our servers are our favorite servers. This is Adam Hermish. We just had our confirmation class last Wednesday. Martin, Adam, what is your confirmation saint name? St. Martin of Tours. So he chose St. Martin, and he showed up to our class because everyone was required to get dressed up, and they all did an amazing job. If you haven't seen the pictures yet on social media and Facebook and things of the sort. But he shows up, and how did he dress? He showed up as a soldier. What was the root and the foundation of Martin's life? I'm a soldier. What was the end of Martin's life? A soldier, but a soldier for Christ, who put on the breastplate of righteousness and the helmet of salvation and had the sword of the Spirit. To do what? To stamp out a pagan culture that dishonored God so that he could create a culture and a people who worship God. As I was reading and praying about this, like we need St. Martin. We need St. Martin. We need both ends of the spectrum of St. Martin. We need St. Martin the charitable and St. Martin the merciful. St. Martin, Matthew 25. We need that in our world today, right now, tremendously, because people need to see. Pope Benedict XVI always said that the world is no longer listening to teachers. The world needs a witness. So it is through our acts of charity and mercy and love. It's through Matthew 25 that people need to see Christianity and see it as the reason and the way that we live our life as being totally credible and so needed in a world of coldness and isolation and hatred and anger. They need to see the mercy and the love. But at the same time, our church is in a battle. Our church is in a battle against paganism and idolatry. And our world needs St. Martin tremendously right now. What an amazing patron saint for this time and this hour and this day. What is today's feast day? Today is what? November the... Secularly, what do we celebrate today? Today is... So if you're a veteran, we love you and thank you. Why do we celebrate Veterans Day in America? What do we celebrate internationally today? St. Martin Day, that was very good. Nope. What is November 11th internationally? Armistice Day. This is actually really awesome, people. What does Armistice Day celebrate? The end of World War I. And what this is where being Catholic is so awesome. How did they end World War I? All fighting would end at the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. What is today? November 11th. And whose feast day was it? Even way back at World War I? St. Martin. What did St. Martin do? He put down his arms of military battle, but he put on the helmet of salvation and the breastplate of righteousness and the sword of the Spirit, and he wielded it against paganism and idolatry. And he realized that the spiritual warfare and the spiritual combat was what he was called to enter into. So what an opportunity for us today on November 11th to commit ourselves again, to be like St. Martin, and to pick up the acts of charity and mercy and love that we hear in Matthew 25, but also, like St. Martin, to not choose violence, to not choose anger, to not choose rage, but to choose to enter into spiritual battle and to fight against the idolatry and the paganism and the hate of our time, and to truly enter into that battle. Also for us here, I kid you not, I was reading all this about St. Martin today, and then it's just like, it hit me like a brick. When was Jessica Wiedemann's funeral today? At the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month. What an amazing time to surrender someone to the Lord. Particularly a woman who literally, for the past 8 years, has been literally fighting and battling as a warrior and taking literally hundreds of people along her on her journey, and to be able to surrender. What a beautiful gift. So today on this feast of St. Martin, we are called in a very powerful way to trust his intercession, and I think in a very new way, maybe even to discover the power of the intercession of St. Martin, one of the earliest saints of the church, who we desperately need now to fight out, to stamp out, to wield the sword of the Spirit, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, to become the saints that God is calling us to be. Through God's grace, may it be so.